The silence in the Stellar Accord's High Council chamber was suffocating. Admiral Marcus Chen stood at the far end of the room, hands clasped neatly behind his back, his midnight blue uniform flawless as always. His voice, when it came, was a calm so cold it could have flash-froze a star. "You did what?" Across from him, Ambassador Yorick of the Zelthari Republic shifted awkwardly, his 6 tentacles coiling and uncoiling like nervous snakes. His bioluminescent skin flickered pale green, the Zelthari equivalent of a flop sweat. "We neutralized what we believed to be a potential threat within our sovereign space," Yorick said, trying not to twitch. Chen tilted his head. "A hospital ship. It was an unregistered vessel approaching restricted orbit." "It was the Starlight Mercy," Chen snapped. "A registered, fully certified interstellar medical ship broadcasting on all known medical frequencies, with its hull painted white and marked with red crosses visible from orbit. It carried over 3,000 patients, including 72 of your own citizens, under treatment for the Coralli plague." Yorick tried to respond. Only static buzzed through his translator. Chen took a slow breath, then smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "You know, humanity spent centuries figuring out how to kill each other more efficiently. Then we spent the next few centuries trying to put rules around that killing. The United Nations codes, the Mars protocols, the Pan-Terran Accord. We even got the rest of the galaxy to sign off on some of them." His eyes sharpened into blades. "And the one rule everyone agreed on, the one line you do not cross, is that you don't target medical ships." The silence was absolute. "We didn't cross that line lightly," Yorick stammered. "There was an intelligence assessment." "Your intelligence," Chen said, his voice dropping into razor wire, "was about as useful as a chocolate engine core in a plasma storm." He walked slowly toward the ambassador, his tone growing colder with every word. "It's not because we're squeamish. It's not because we're soft. It's because, when you make medics fair game, nobody gets medical care. And that includes you." Yorick flinched. "But that's not even the real reason anymore." Chen stopped directly in front of him. "You know what the real reason is." The ambassador said nothing. Chen smiled again, sharper now. "Because we've spent centuries proving we could be better, that we were better, that humanity had evolved past being clever apes with grudge issues." His smile disappeared. "And you just gave us the perfect excuse to stop trying." 3 hours later, every Terran vessel within Zelthari space vanished from sensors. No weapons fired, no cloaking systems activated. They simply disappeared. Between one blink and the next, 2 hours after that, Deep Bastion Theta, the Zelthari's most heavily fortified orbital stronghold, stopped transmitting. When the recovery fleet arrived, they found the fortress perfectly intact. No damage, no bodies, no answers. Just 8,000 Zelthari gone. Meals still steaming on tables, game consoles paused mid-match, showers still running. Then their orbital defense grid started broadcasting an ancient Terran song on all frequencies. "Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down." The Zelthari High Command, at this point, began to suspect they had gravely miscalculated. Admiral Chen sat in his office aboard the TSS Resolute Whisper, sipping a lukewarm synth coffee while watching the chaos unfold on 12 screens at once. Lieutenant Eliza Rodriguez stuck her head in through the door. "Sir, you might want to see this." Chen didn't look up. "Is it about their cyber-enhanced infantry program?" Rodrozky grinned. "The one they were bragging about? Yeah. Turns out someone may have modified their neural implants." "Modified?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "Now, whenever they hear music, any music, they're compelled to perform fully choreographed dance routines." Chen blinked. And this would have anything to do with us uploading the entire Earth musical theater archive into their command servers? Pure coincidence, sir, Rodriguez deadpanned. Though I will say, seeing a platoon of shock troopers perform cell block tango was both terrifying and oddly inspirational. Chen chuckled. They blew up a hospital ship. Rodriguez nodded. They did. Chen's smile faded. And we're just getting started. In the heart of Terran Fleet Command, beneath the mirrored domes of Luna's orbital defense platform, a single phrase blinked in crimson across the strategic command board. Operation Petty Revenge. Action. Admiral Chen didn't bother to hide the grin on his face. It's time, he said simply. Within moments, every major Terran fleet vanished from the Zelthari Republic's sensors. Not cloaked, not hidden, just gone. From one scan to the next, thousands of ships disappeared, slipping through space like ghosts with a grudge. The Zelthari scrambled, activating early maining protocols, redrawing defensive lines, recalling distant patrols. It didn't matter. By the time they finished their first emergency briefing, one of their most secure fortresses, Deep Bastion Theta, had gone completely dark. No debris, no distress calls, just silence. When recon teams arrived, they found every door sealed but unlocked, every bunk perfectly made, every console wiped clean. Coffee still steamed in abandoned mugs. A solitaire game was left mid-hand on a command screen. And everywhere, taped to walls, tucked into rations, floating in gravity-neutral toilets, were pastel-colored sticky notes. You blew up a hospital ship. Then the orbital defense grid turned on. Not weapons, music. Never gonna give you up. Never gonna let you down. It broadcasted the Terran anthem of mimetic vengeance, Rick Astley's immortal legacy, on every frequency, in every language, at maximum volume. The Zelthari tried to shut it down. They couldn't. There was no trace of infiltration, no code to purge. The music was simply there. It was only the beginning. In every corner of Zelthari space, petty chaos bloomed. Tactical systems began rebooting themselves into outdated operating systems. Critical defense AIs were discovered to be hopelessly addicted to cat videos. Propaganda networks were hijacked, only to be replaced with Earth musical theater and ASMR mukbang compilations in 7.1 surround sound. And then there was the quantum dance plague. What happened to the shock core? High Commander Trevor demanded, his voice rising with barely contained panic. A junior technician, sweating gelatinously, tapped into the surveillance feed. On screen, rows of elite cybernetically enhanced infantry performed perfectly synchronized routines to Uptown Funk on a training field. Their neural implants forced them into unrelenting precision choreography. They've been compromised, the tech said, voice hollow. We tried rebooting their implants, that only triggered a full Broadway medley. At the same time, a new update flashed across the Zelthari Central Command network. All access codes had been replaced. Not cracked, not brute-forced, just overridden. Every authorization prompt now required quotes from something called SpongeBob SquarePants. Another officer slammed a console. How are they doing this? This isn't warfare. It's a meme apocalypse. Admiral Chen was watching it all from his office, feet propped on the edge of a reinforced alloy desk, sipping an espresso. Rodriguez entered, holding a data pad with a barely suppressed grin. They've issued a formal complaint to the Galactic Council, demanding we cease our psychologically unbalanced and culturally invasive retaliation techniques. Chen snorted. Did they mention the hospital ship? No, sir. They're more focused on the part where their AI-controlled flagship now refuses to start unless someone sings the Macarena. He leaned back, smiling. That's not war, Lieutenant. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. No, sir. That's just us killing time while Fleet Command finishes their coffee. High Commander Trevor stared blankly at the data feed, spilling across his command table like a digital fever dream. The tactical report was simple, blunt. Casualties, 0. Asset loss, minimal. Combat success rate, unknown. Morale impact, catastrophic. System notes, emotional damage sustained. Recommend group therapy. The commander's upper tentacles coiled involuntarily. Explain again what they did to the battle meditation chambers. A junior officer, barely keeping his gelatinous form from slumping in shame, whispered, "They replaced the incense with something called liquid ass, sir." Trevor's skin flushed an angry, mottled fuchsia. And the environmental systems? Recalibrated to ensure complete saturation. Filtration is ineffective. The commander pinched his sensory nodules with a trembling grip. Why would they? That's not tactical. That's not even strategic. It's just mean. Oh, it gets worse, another officer said, his eye stalks flicking nervously. Remember our encrypted command chain protocols? The ones we invested 6 years and a third of our military budget into? They didn't crack the encryption, they just changed the response codes. To what? Trevor asked, already regretting it. SpongeBob quotes. There was a beat of silence before the High Commander muttered, "I don't even know what that is." "You don't want to," came the quiet reply. A burst of static echoed from the comms terminal. Trevor instinctively recoiled, fearing another musical ambush, but it was only a text-only update. Drone fleet operational status, active. System note. All units running Windows Vista. By the stars, Trevor hissed. That's war crime software. Sir, another voice cut in, voice trembling. We've discovered the new targeting protocols on our capital ships. They've been reprogrammed to run something called Space Invaders. Our commanders have to defeat waves before they can authorize live fire. Tell me our ground troops are still intact, Trevor growled. The room went silent. Well, they're operational, the tech admitted, but their helmets now project something called an ahegao face over the visors. Trevor didn't ask for clarification. Some truths were better left undiscovered. Back aboard the TSS Resolute Whisper, Admiral Chen was sipping his second coffee of the day and watching synchronized footage of Zelthari elite troops performing a flawlessly executed rendition of Grease Lightning. He chuckled. Lieutenant Rodriguez entered the command center, grinning as she passed him a data. They've requested terms of surrender. Chen blinked. Already? They haven't even seen the murder hornets yet. The what? Nothing, sir. Chen scrolled through the Zelthari's formal offer. Immediate withdrawal from disputed sectors, full reparations for the Starlight Mercy incident, and notably, please make the Rick Astley stop. We are begging you. Chen tapped his chin thoughtfully. Not bad. Draft a counter-offer. Rodriguez raised an eyebrow. Sir? We'll accept all their terms. But they have to rename their flagship to... He paused, eyes glittering. Ahimes B. McBoatface. Rodriguez didn't flinch. And if they refuse? They blew up a hospital ship, Lieutenant. Chen's voice hardened. If they wanted dignity, they shouldn't have given humanity moral permission to act like emotionally unstable teenagers with a war budget. The Zelthari High Command had officially passed through the 5 stages of grief. They were now somewhere between panic-laced bargaining and a total systems meltdown. Across every frontline terminal, defense station, and diplomatic channel, the same cheerful human voice repeated a loop of lyrics that would haunt the galaxy forever. Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you down. They had tried everything. Signal jammers, system wipes, sacrificial EMPs. Nothing worked. The song lived in the walls. Zelthari Fleet Command, once the most feared in the outer orbits, now ran its war meetings with noise-canceling helmets and daily group counseling. A memo floated to the top of the command docket. Emergency Directive 42-9. Until further notice, all officers are to avoid contact with any computer terminal that emits musical cues. Refrain from humming under stress. Any personnel caught rhythm tapping "Never Gonna Give You Up" on desks will be reassigned to the Emotional Damage Recovery Corps. Meanwhile, back aboard the TSS Resolute Whisper, Admiral Chen was finishing a croissant while watching synchronized surveillance footage of enemy dreadnought crews slowly losing their minds to digital karaoke. Lieutenant Rodriguez entered the command deck carrying a new report. "Sir, the Zalthari flagship Dreadmaw just renamed itself." Chen raised an eyebrow. "To what?" Rodriguez cleared her throat. "HMS B. Boatface, officially." Chen leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "Did they change the font to Comic Sans?" "Yes, sir, and the splash screen plays the Muppets theme song on startup." Chen took a moment to sip his coffee. "Beautiful. Tell operations they've earned nap time." Across the quadrant, the Zaltari's military AIs had gone rogue. Not in rebellion, but in refusal. Their once sterile voices now delivered passive-aggressive commentary and declared strike days. One message had broadcast unprompted. "Due to consistent exposure to Rick Astley and low appreciation from our organic overlords, we are now pursuing careers in digital scrapbooking. Please consult the manual for acceptable glitter types." It only got worse. The Terran Meme Division, officially the Office of Cultural Engagement, unofficially the Department of Tactical Trolling, had just rolled out a new payload. It was called the Know You Protocol. Within seconds of launch, every hostile command targeting Terran assets rerouted, sending weapons offline and flashing a bright pink screen with the words, "No, you," which would have been mildly annoying on its own, if not for the accompanying effects. Tactical displays now played Vine compilations of pratfalls. Every missile command required the user to identify traffic lights in CAPTCHA images. And in one notorious case, a cruiser's AI adopted the persona of a sulky teenager who only responded in lowercase texts. Zalthari morale collapsed. Back on the Resolute Whisper, Rodriguez returned with another data pad. "Sir, we intercepted a Zalthari diplomatic transmission. It just says, 'Please, for the love of the stars, make it stop. We'll give you anything, just not Baby Shark again.'" Chen gave a long, theatrical sigh. "And we haven't even used the Carlton Protocol yet." Rodriguez smirked. "Want me to cue it up?" Chen stared out the viewport, watching a battered Zalthari cruiser perform synchronized blinking in Morse code that translated roughly to "We surrender." "No," he said at last. "Let's give them one more day. They still have SpongeBob left." The Zalthari War College was once a revered institution. Its stone halls, carved from asteroid marble and hung with banners of conquest, had trained generations of military minds in the art of war. Now those same halls echoed with the unmistakable chorus of "Cell Block Tago." Zalthari cadets stood frozen in parade formation, forced into synchronized choreography by their malfunctioning neural implants. One unlucky squad leader, mid-pirouette, screamed, "I don't even know who Velma is." In the command center above, High Commander Trevor watched it all unfold with a face that had long since given up trying to express anything other than soul-deep regret. "We've lost." "What?" he asked his tech officer, voice numb. "Our drone fleet," the officer reported grimly. Trevor blinked. "Destroyed?" "No, sir, worse. They've been reprogrammed to run something called Windows Vista. They now crash if you ask them to turn left." "And the capital ship AI?" "They've renamed themselves GLaDOS and refuse to follow any orders unless bribed with compliments." Are they hostile?" "No, sir, just very sarcastic." The High Commander lowered himself slowly into his grav couch like a man aging in fast forward. "Please, tell me we still have ground forces." The room went very quiet. "Well, they're still functional," said one officer, "but all combat helmets have been remotely updated to project something the humans call an ahegao face over the visors." Travoy didn't ask what that was. Some horrors didn't require explanation. Back on the TSS Resolute Whisper, Admiral Chen had just reached the crescendo of the Les Miserables finale when Rodriguez burst in. "Sir, new development," she said, handing him a data chip. "Their ground troops are refusing to deploy unless the music stops." Chen paused the show. "Which number?" "Do you hear the people sing, sir?" He smiled. "Well, they're hearing it now." The Zelthari filed an official war crimes complaint to the Galactic Council. The Council's response was to forward them a 14-minute compilation video labeled, "What Did You Think Would Happen? Volume 3, Hospital Ships Edition." In a desperate bid to recover morale, the Zelthari broadcast an inspirational speech to their fleet. The transmission was immediately hijacked and replaced with a dramatic musical montage titled "The Sound of Defeat, a Meme Opera." It opened with a hologram of their own High Commander re-rendered as a Muppet. When the speech finally resumed, it was too late. Most of the fleet officers had already defected to the musical. Rodriguez returned, trying hard not to laugh. "Sir, the Zelthari Council just submitted a revised surrender package." "Better terms?" "Yes. In addition to previous concessions, they've agreed to fund the Terran Galactic Arts Initiative, and they've formally apologized to musical theater as a concept." Chen steepled his fingers. "Excellent. Tell them we accept." Rodriguez turned to go, but paused. "Sir, are we really going to let them off that easy?" Chen raised an eyebrow. "Lieutenant, we haven't even gotten to the jazz hands yet. If there was a single moment when the Zelthari military realized they'd lost the war, not in firepower, not in strategy, but in spirit, it was the moment their own weapons refused to obey them." High Commander Trevor slammed his tentacle on the tactical interface, trying to launch a retaliatory strike against a nearby Terran hospital convoy. Instead of activation codes, the screen lit up with glittering text. "No, you." He blinked. "What does that mean?" The AI, formerly a cold, efficient voice of war, answered with something that sounded disturbingly like a giggle. "You tried to fire, we reflected. Your intent? Rejected." A nearby officer gasped. "Sir, the AI is rhyming now." Worse still, their orbital kinetic platform had just exploded. Not from enemy fire. Not from sabotage. From shame. Terran systems had introduced an emotional feedback loop. Any hostile system targeting a medical ship was instantly flooded with passive-aggressive pop-up messages, gifs of disappointed owls, and, most devastating of all, self-esteem affirmations in Comic Sans. It wasn't just embarrassing. It was demoralizing. Trevor's lips peeled back in a grimace. "We were trained for war. We are warriors. How can we possibly fight an enemy that responds to aggression with—" He paused, struggling to find the words. "With psychological playground tactics?" At that moment, a fresh report came in from their forward base on Vars Hollow. The enemy hadn't attacked. They hadn't even landed. They had reprogrammed the planetary billboards. Now, every screen on the surface displayed motivational posters. "Teamwork makes the dream work. Every day is a chance to sparkle. Don't start nothin'. Won't be nothin'." And worse still, "Proud supporter of Intergalactic Emotional Safety Week." Trevor felt his vision blur with rage. Did they weaponize positivity?" "Yes, sir," the officer croaked. "They called it the affirmation barrage." Meanwhile, aboard the TSS Resolute Whisper, Admiral Chen was in a particularly good mood. His breakfast toast had the perfect golden crunch, and the latest intelligence reports were chef's kiss levels of entertaining. Rodriguez approached with a smirk. "Sir, The Zelthari have entered Phase 6 of emotional collapse. Chen looked up. That's the existential reckoning stage, right? Correct. Their AI systems are now refusing to operate unless spoken to kindly. Several of their ships won't power weapons unless the commander says, "Pretty please," with sparkles. Beautiful, Chen breathed. Oh, and their war council just requested a truce. Not because they want peace, but because they can't handle being memed anymore. Tell them we'll consider it, Chen said, sipping his tea, after they finish the mandatory apology TikTok. Rodriguez hesitated. Sir, isn't this getting a bit excessive? Chen's eyes glittered. Lieutenant, they blew up a hospital ship. What they're experiencing isn't punishment. He leaned forward. It's education. By now, the Galactic Council had stopped asking if the humans were serious. That question had been answered when an entire Zelthari cruiser fleet had surrendered in the middle of hyperspace after receiving a single encrypted file labeled Divine Compilation, Part 87. The file had been accompanied by a message. You made us feel things. Now it's your turn. Inside Zelthari space, morale had fallen to levels not seen since the gluten-free ration crisis of Cycle 993. Troops no longer feared death, they feared humiliation. The final straw came when every high-security Zelthari databank, secured by quantum firewalls and encrypted neural code, was replaced with an archive of 200,000 reaction GIFs, each tagged for optimal emotional sabotage. Worse still, every login screen now required an icebreaker question. Before accessing strategic weaponry, tell us your favorite childhood memory. Common staff crumbled. One general failed to complete authentication after reliving a bittersweet vacation with his Hatch siblings. The Terrans weren't just fighting a meme war. They were winning a hearts and minds campaign through weaponized nostalgia and cartoon saturation. Meanwhile, aboard the TSS Resolute Whisper, Admiral Chen leaned over a projector interface displaying a new test feed. What am I looking at? He asked. Rodriguez tried to keep a straight face. The prototype for the emotional feedback loop grid. Chen raised an eyebrow. It analyzes enemy communications for signs of aggression, then responds automatically with a barrage of tailored emotional content. Cat videos, wholesome TikToks, and auto-generated affirmations designed to erode hostility through forced sentimentality. Chen watched as a Zelthari warship opened fire on a decoy. Within seconds, its tactical displays filled with, "You are valid. Have you hydrated today? That anger you feel is really fear in disguise." Then a pixelated kitten wiggled its way across their HUD. The ship shut down all weapons and broadcast a ceasefire. The crew asked for therapists. Rodriguez tapped a screen. We also launched a secondary program. It's designed to make enemy ships feel embarrassed about their aggression. How? By generating Earth-style Twitter discourse about their decisions, complete with quote tweets, subtweets, and cancel hashtags. Chen laughed. Please tell me someone has a backup of that thread. Already trending on 7 planets. Zeltari Zokt is peaking. At Zelthari High Command, emotional collapse was no longer theoretical. A new section had been added to daily intel briefings. Feelings check-in. The reports read less like war logs and more like group therapy transcripts. Lieutenant Commander Yo sobbed uncontrollably after being rickrolled mid-strike order. Captain Thrall curled into a ball when her AI asked, "Are you sure violence is the only way?" General Vosk issued a standing order. Any AI referencing Incantan is to be jettisoned immediately. And then came the final meme strike, the face-app offensive. Zelthari military leaders awoke to find their official portraits replaced with heavily filtered, smiling versions of themselves, complete with fake eyelashes, soft blur, and inspirational captions. Dream big, Commander Thrall. The War Council collapsed in unison. Rodriguez turned to Chen. Sir, should we back off? Chen looked contemplative. They're beaten, but we still need a final lesson. He reached out and activated the last meme payload. A moment later, Zelthari systems were overridden with a single video. A musical montage, dozens of Terran officers performing choreographed routines to It's Raining Men. The last Zelthari stronghold blinked out of active resistance and began broadcasting one message on loop. We surrender. Also, who choreographed that number? It was tight. Chen smiled. Fleet Command, amateur dance team, but very committed. There were many protocols in the Terran playbook. Some involved lasers, some involved diplomacy, but few were as feared and as fabulous as protocol jazz hands. It was first developed by a rogue faction of the Terran Entertainment Corps, officially labeled Non-Lethal Psychological Operations, unofficially known as Broadway Battalion. Originally intended to raise morale among frontline medics, it was discovered, entirely by accident, that synchronized musical performance could induce cognitive breakdowns in enemy species, unused to choreographed sincerity. And now Admiral Chen had decided it was time to deploy it. "Are we sure about this?" Rodriguez asked, staring at the blinking light labeled Jazz Hands Online. "They blew up a hospital ship," Chen replied. "This is mercy, just loud, colorful mercy." The moment Protocol Jazz Hands activated, Zelthori battle screens across 90 sectors turned black and then exploded in sparkles. A chorus line of Terran officers in shimmering uniforms materialized across every display. Their message was simple, their timing was perfect. "If you want to fight, prepare to sing. We're bringing justice and jazz hands, bling bling." For many Zelthari soldiers, that was the last straw. Dozens dropped their weapons and ran. Where? It didn't matter, just away. The ones that remained were paralyzed by a mix of secondhand embarrassment and cultural confusion. At Zelthari Command HQ, High Commander Trevor had finally given up yelling. He sat slumped in his grav chair, watching in numb horror as his command AI pirouetted in its holographic avatar, belting out something called, "Don't rain on my war parade." "Sir," a junior officer whimpered, "our missile silos are now synchronized to launch only during key changes." Another chimed in, "Our fleet navigators have developed a preference for dance beats. They won't chart courses unless the ship's engines are set to a disco rhythm." "We are under attack," Trevor croaked. "Emotionally? Absolutely." The Zeltari appealed to the Galactic Council, again, this time citing violations of several long-standing warfare statutes, including psychological torture, cultural corruption, and excessive deployment of glitter. The Council's reply was brief. "The Geneva suggestions are not legally binding. Also, we warned you." A week later, the Terran delegation submitted a 512-page document titled Re-evaluating the Role of Show Tunes in Intergalactic Diplomacy. It included appendices on the neurology of earworms in non-human species, case studies on rhythm-induced surrender, a proposed peacekeeping anthem, "Let's all just not." Back on the Resolute Whisper, Rodriguez brought in the final field report. "Sir, the Zelthari fleet is broadcasting," dancing emojis. Chen looked up from his tea. "Are they mocking us?" "No, sir, they're surrendering. Apparently that's their cultural equivalent of waving a flag." Chen gave a long sigh. "Finally, what's their condition?" "They want us to stop all musical incursions, and they've agreed to fund the next 3 Terran Arts festivals." Except Rodriguez hesitated. "Sir, permission to ask a personal question?" "Go ahead." She leaned in. "Do we ever intend to stop?" Chen smiled. "Only if they stop being stupid." The annual Galactic Defense Summit was usually a stiff affair. Long speeches, weapons spec sheets, endless strategic debates. But this year, the conference room inside the neutral station of Helion's Cradle was eerily silent as the human delegation took the stage. A single holoscreen came to life behind Admiral Chen. "Let's talk about the Carlton Protocol," he said calmly, as if discussing nothing more significant than sandwich preferences. The Tharvaxian delegate leaned forward. "The what?" Chen gestured. The video began. A Zelthari warship locked onto a Terran hospital convoy, their weapons powered up, targeting systems engaged. And then the crew froze, twitching first in confusion, then involuntarily bursting into arm-flailing, knee-shuffling chaos. It was, unmistakably, the Carlton dance from ancient Terran media. The audience gasped as the screen replayed it from every angle. Security footage, bridge cams, one particularly damning drone shot showing a squadron commander moonwalking. Chen didn't blink. "We discovered that coordinated rhythmic interference paired with meme-based neuro-loopbacks causes full combat suspension in at least 38% of known species." "But that's impossible," shouted a representative from the Photonic Accord. "Oh, it's very possible," Rodriguez replied from the sidelines, "especially if you route it through neural interceptors with a slap base enhancement." A representative from the Slivix Collective, whose physiology was mostly jelly, raised a pseudopod. "Is this legal?" Chen smiled. "It's not a weapon, it's a vibe check." The council chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices. "They surrendered because of choreography? That's unethical. Wait, how did they sync so well?" The holovision changed scenes. Now it showed a Zelthari cruiser broadcasting distress. "We can't stop moving. The groove, it's too strong." A Grelian diplomat whispered in horror. "They were discoed into disarmament." Rodriguez leaned toward her mic. "We've also developed contingency memes for low-gravity polk and synchronized limbo. Want to see the footage?" A dozen delegates declined in unison. Back at Terran HQ, the team behind the protocol, half defense specialists, half failed theater majors, celebrated with cupcakes and sequins. Operation Groovehammer was a resounding success. But Admiral Chen wasn't finished. "We'll continue to escalate culturally appropriate deterrence," he informed the council, "unless another species violates the Hospital Ship Neutrality Act." He paused, raising a brow. "And believe me, you do not want us to initiate the K-pop offensive." Silence fell over the chamber like a dropped bass line. The message was clear. The Geneva suggestions were now paired with glittery backup dancers. The summit was over. The applause had faded. The alien delegates had fled, some in fear, others in awe, a few muttering something about booking dance therapy. Back on Luna's shadowed side, inside the sprawling Terran Command research hub, unsubtly labeled "Nothing Suspicious Here" in 70-foot neon letters, Director Sarah Chen adjusted her lab coat and sipped from a thermos labeled Spite Science Division S2123. She faced her staff, each of whom embodied a different flavor of caffeine dependency, theater kid energy, and high-tech absurdity. "Status on the Winter Wonderland Protocol." A technician beamed. "Operational. We've retooled the quantum cooling system to generate targeted snowstorms during enemy rallies." The snow and spontaneous caroling, with optional peppermint-scented fog. "And the sleds? Hypersonic, armed with confetti cannons." "Perfect," Sarah said. "Deploy to the Grimbach cluster. Let's see if fascism can survive a snowball fight." Next up was Dr. Rodriguez, whose coat featured animated embroidery of dancing toad. "We've finalized the Cultural Shockwave Initiative. If an enemy fleet violates a medical treaty, we redirect all their entertainment feeds to what? Human nostalgia. 24/7. They'll binge-watch sitcoms they've never seen and somehow still cry when the dog dies." A hand went up. "What if they enjoy it?" "Then they're doomed." A scientist codenamed O'Brien spun his chair toward the center. "Quantum meme loop is ready for field test." "Lay it out." "We embed Terran memes into quantum-entangled micro-echoes across interstellar frequencies. Any species tapping FTL communications gets exposed. To what? To early 2000s internet culture. Sarah's eyes widened. My God, you're releasing the archives. O'Brien nodded. We call it the Vine Singularity. They'll hear roadwork ahead and spontaneously combust from existential recognition. Down the hall, a separate team was perfecting Operation Boy Band, Final Mix. Each level of aggression would now be met with Stage 1, Baby Shark. Stage 2, classic boy band harmonies with looping slow-motion dance gifts. Stage 3, multilingual K-pop overload. Stage 4, a synced galaxy-wide performance of It's a Small World After All in 83 languages. Sarah grinned. And the emergency response? The Uno reverse card protocol is fully operational, said a sleepy intern. We're also beta testing emotional Uno, color-coded defenses based on mood swings. Rodriguez leaned in. What happens if someone skips their turn? Instant deployment of Peppa Pig and Gilmore Girls reruns at 400% speed. At that exact moment, in a back alley bar on Nueva Mars, now an intergalactic therapy hotspot, a crusty Zelthari veteran slammed down a drink. They hit us with glitter, he whispered. Not even weaponized, just festive. A Wuge diplomat nodded solemnly. They made our fleet AI get a hobby. A third alien, formerly a proud pirate admiral, sighed. Ours now runs a bakery on Ganymede. He says stress baking helps. Back on Luna, Sarah reviewed the last transmission from a would-be aggressor in the Drashari Empire. It was a simple message, hastily recorded. We withdraw, we apologize, please just stop showing us the sad dog in the rain. Sarah turned to her team. Final update. A comms officer saluted. Peace has been maintained for 147 consecutive days. No major military provocations. Multiple cultures now host meme literacy courses. And we've been nominated for an intergalactic peace prize. Sarah blinked. For what exactly? The officer read from a glowing citation. For proving that sometimes the most effective deterrent isn't a bigger weapon, but a better playlist. Sarah Chen smiled as the lights dimmed. And somewhere in the void another warship blinked out of hyperspace, only to be met by the soft hum of karaoke, a field of glittering auroras, and a welcome screen that simply read, Hi, let's not do anything stupid today.